Everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert Walker with RetirementHomes.com. Thank you so much for joining our October 2015 webinar, Cheap and Creative Ways to Drive New Leads to Your Senior Living Community. Please let me know if you have any audio or visual, any technical difficulties at all. On the toolbar to the right of your screen, you can raise your hand, or alternatively, you can send a chat message to me, Robert Walker, webinar organizer. Let me know if there are any issues at all. If I'm not speaking loud enough, going too quickly, whatever it is, and we're happy to rectify that. Just a brief housekeeping note before we jump right into things. We'll try to take questions at the end of the presentation. If you do have any questions, just make a note of them, and or you can send them to me, and I will take them at the end of the presentation as well. So a little bit about us, RetirementHomes.com. We run these monthly webinars sharing the best practices with senior living professionals across North America. We've been around actually for 18 years. We're North America's largest and most comprehensive resource for baby boomers and seniors looking for senior housing options. We have a lot of different platforms, including both B2B and B2C newsletters, B2B and B2C webinars, social media, sales training, retargeting, all sorts of cool things like that, as well as every year the Mambo Awards. And recognizing the best and most creative marketing programs used by senior living communities. And every month we run these webinars as well at no charge to senior living professionals in the areas of marketing, sales, lead generation, others to help you be as effective as possible in providing a very important service to older people across North America. So let's get started. So now what is the problem? The problem is prospects aren't banging down your doors the way they used to. Of course, that's a problem. Now, there are a lot of different kinds of care options in which you may be providing. Some of you may be CCRCs, continuing care retirement communities. Others may be active independent living. Others may be memory care. So a lot of different various types of care that you may be providing to the public. And yet, there's a consistent theme, a consistent demographic challenge facing all of you. And again, here just from 2 months ago in the Wall Street Journal, senior housing raises concern supply will outpace demand from baby boomers. I said that a little bit awkwardly. New senior housing raises concerns supply will outpace demand from baby boomers. It's an awkward title. Basically what it's saying is that there simply isn't the demand to, there is more senior housing options and beds available than ever before. This is something 100 years ago just wasn't the case. And yet today, there simply isn't the concern, there isn't the demand that one would think there should be. And this is a very counterintuitive subject. Now, this is actually a topic that we've done in the past with Irving Stackpole and Associates, and definitely we'll, I think we'll touch that on as well. What is causing this? How is it possible that we are constantly hearing about baby boomers and aging? I mean, the oldest baby boomers are now going to be 70 years old next year. And yet, where this baby boomers, this largest, almost sort of proverbial sort of, meat going through the body of a snake, right? You see this huge, giant demographic cohort. Where are these people? Right? Why is it that your senior living community isn't getting called every day with people who are needing your accommodations? Well, there's two reasons for that. One is, as I said, the oldest baby boomers are only 69 years old, so they're not quite there yet. Right? The youngest baby boomers are only 51. So we're not quite at a stage where, obviously there are exceptions, but we are not quite at a stage where, in a large sense, there is a large number of baby boomers requiring the services in which you're providing. And the average, and again, depends on, obviously state by state, province by province, care type, etc. But the average age in which someone moves into assisted living is 87 years old. So if we look at that data and we say, okay, the oldest baby boomers are today 69 years old, and the average age, obviously there are exceptions, the average age in which a senior moves in or someone moves into a senior living community, assisted living, is 87, we're talking 18 years away. So we're not quite at the point. So in that sense, we hear about all these baby boomers, and we think, wow, this is coming. But the truth is, many of you are probably baby boomers, and yet you think, well, I'm not moving into an assisted living community, A, in my lifetime, or B, not for a long time. And so that's the challenge, is that we have this large demographic cohort, and they are getting older. The oldest are going to be 70 next year, and yet that's still not quite old enough. So unless you're planning to wait 18 years for lead generation, which obviously isn't feasible for any of us, the challenge is, okay, they're not quite there yet. And the problem is the silent and the greatest generations, the generations who were there before them, they were small, and there are still a lot of different societal and other barriers to having them think of senior living community as a viable option. So those two major challenges. One is a demographic one, and two is that for the most part, and I'm sure you know this for yourself, everybody would rather, for right or for wrong, would rather stay at home rather than move into a senior living community. So one, you don't have the demographic sort of girth that we would need in order to have that nonstop flow of lead generation to communities. And second of all, it's not a first choice for people. So how do we change that? Obviously, the demographic one, that's not something we can change, but we can help to focus our energies. That's one. And two is as far as helping to brand your senior living community, regardless of what type it is, not regardless, but there are some variations. If you're memory care, there's different challenges. There's a lot more pressing issue. If you're independent or active living, obviously there's no per se imperative to move in, but you have different challenges there as well. So anyway, those are the two major challenges. The problem is the prospects aren't coming the way they used to. If you're an independent living, or rather assisted living, or memory care in 20 years, this webinar would not be the case. But today, this is the biggest issue. So what are the constraints? And what are the concerns? The concerns are budgetary constraints. You say, okay, Robert Walker, okay, retirementhomes.com, we want to knock this out of the park. We want to, how do we get new leads? How do we build leads, and how do we attract them? How do we turn those leads into prospects? And how do we turn those prospects into viable sales and move-ins? So what's limiting you? One, budgetary constraints, right? You don't have an unlimited budget to advertise. You don't have an unlimited budget for a pay-per-lead model or a pay-per-move-in model. Or you don't have unlimited resources for salespeople or for marketing people or for free lunches or whatever it is that you're using. Obviously, there's a financial consideration, and you just have to be very careful with your money. One. Two is limited technological abilities. Even if you have somebody on your staff, whether on the marketing or operations or management or marketing, whatever it is, who has advanced technical skills, whether it's in online marketing or graphic design or whatever it is, even if you have that, and many people don't, particularly smaller independent communities, don't have the resources that larger chains may have, so that's one. But two is, even if you have somebody who does have those abilities, he or she is not necessarily a jack of all trades. They can't do everything, and they have limited time, and that may or may not fall outside the parameters of their job. So there's, in addition to financial considerations, there's sweat equity. You simply don't have the people to do all what you need to be done. And that really falls into three, is staff shortage. Even if you have one or two people who are experts in a technological area, such as internet marketing, such as graphic design, et cetera, it doesn't mean that you have the staff to carry it out. So you're really limited here because, you need the money, perhaps to hire people. You know what they always say, if you pay peanuts, you'll get monkeys. So you need to have the money to hire the right people. Two, you need to have those people and retain them. And third, you need other people to actually execute perhaps some of the strategies or the technical efforts that you've had somebody do. So here are some of the challenges. I know everybody's shaking your head saying, tell us something we don't know. But really, I think talking about this helps us to actually identify the challenges. But that's not where it ends, unfortunately. We have more. Geographical limitations. So if you are an independent community, when I say independent, I don't mean independent living community, but I mean independent community, standalone, or perhaps you're part of a chain or a smaller chain, how do you then reach out to an audience where you can't necessarily have immediate access? So if you're in a bigger city, if you have a sign outside and you're in a main intersection, main drag, maybe you can reach a lot more people. But if you're in an area where you just don't have that kind of visibility, how do you reach out to those people? You're limited. And of course, the last point, I mean, we could be here forever talking about all the different challenges and shortcomings that we face. But a big one is, of course, the data. How can you reach out? How can you build leads and prospects, and how can you develop that kind of a system for your senior living community if you don't have data, or if perhaps you don't have the right data? Sometimes it's worse to have no data and rather be just sort of taking wild guesses than an incorrect or partial data, because sometimes that can send you in the entirely wrong direction. When I say data, I mean about your demographic. In other words, who comes into your community, what brings them in, what stage, what's the sales cycle, what's their income, what are the major concerns, how long are they there for, where are the major referral sources. So this is kind of the data, which might be at your fingertips. The data might be sitting in your home right now as you speak, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have access to it right now, because it means that the seniors or your residents themselves may or may not be relevant sources for that data. The families may not be willing to share that. and sometimes, you know, the only real place to get it is when people are in the sales cycle at that point. So if you haven't yet got there, that's not the end of the world, but it just means you sort of you're fighting with one or sometimes two arms behind your back. So here are the concerns. I guess, as I said, I mean, there are a lot more concerns. We didn't even get into competitor. We didn't get into some of the specific, you know, your own unique value proposition. In other words, the shortcoming of your own home. You're too expensive. You know, you wish you could come down, but you just can't. You're too expensive for people. Or maybe, you know what, it's a great home, great care, but you know what, maybe you have a bad reputation. Or maybe 10 years ago there was an issue that you just can't, you know, can't get out of. Or maybe, you know, you need just a new paint job or a new upgrade your, you know, your residence, and just literally that is people come in and say, it looks great, but you know, it looks a little dark. Whatever it is, there are always a million little things, but the idea is that if we can take a strategic, we'll talk a little bit about the difference between strategy and tactic as far as marketing and building leads for your senior living community is concerned, but that can help you get out of this mess and help to drive more leads to your senior living community. So retirementhomes.com, obviously we are in the internet marketing business. It's not all we do, but it's definitely the sort of core real nut of what we do. So obviously I'd be remiss to not start with this, and I really think that this is important for a couple reasons. It's not just because we do this. This is, you know, rather why we do this. Now, there are a lot of different areas. When people say internet marketing, we could also say digital marketing. You know, I would use them fairly interchangeably. So there are a lot of different ideas here. One is search engine optimization, SEO. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this. What is SEO? In a nutshell, it is why does your website show up first when I do a Google search? I say Google because Google has about 70% of the market share. So as opposed to talking about Yahoo or Bing, it's Google. So when I, as a prospect, as a senior living, you know, someone who's seeking senior living options, either for myself, perhaps independent living or active living, or maybe for my loved one or for a spouse, when I'm looking on Google, as I said, that's probably where it is, and I type in Sarasota retirement home or Milwaukee, you know, nursing home. Again, this is important because the way we describe ourselves and define ourselves in industry jargon is not necessarily how our prospects are describing us. They don't call us necessarily CCRCs or skilled nursing or memory care. They might call it an Alzheimer's home. So anyway, that's sort of as a side point. So as far as SEO is, why do you appear first, or alternatively 15th page? What makes that happen? There are a lot of different rationales or reasons for that. In a nutshell, what it is are website content. So what is website content? It means, do you have a vibrant and diverse website? Do you have videos? Do you have articles? Do you have blogs? Do you have pictures of your staff? Do you have pictures of residents? Do you have pictures of events going on? Do you have, is it a website that's being regularly updated? Because the whole idea of, again, what Google makes its money through advertisements, right? So when you go into Google and you search everything from local Chinese restaurant to local Toyota dealership to, you know, flights to New York City, whatever it is, Google has ads there, and that's where they make their money. And Google will not make any money if you don't go to Google. So how does Google remain 70% market leader? They do that by providing you, person looking on Google, with only the content that you're looking for. If you look for Toyota dealership in Phoenix, last thing they want to do is to send you random or irrelevant information from other places or something that you're not looking for. So they also don't want to send you something which is outdated. So for example, if I am a senior prospect, either looking independent living for myself, or for the most part in your experience, I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing, is someone looking for their spouse or for their parent or loved one. So if I go into Google and I look up, you know, Miami or Fort Lauderdale retirement home for my mother or my father, if I find a website where it's active and it's vibrant and there's pictures and it's regularly updated, that's relevant to me. And so rather, if I find a website which is outdated or which is not consistently mentioned, or basically it's a stale website, hey, that's not going to look good to me. And guess what? If it doesn't look good to me, Google is not going to show it to me. So Google does not, I would say they penalize, the way to describe it would be they penalize websites which are not regularly updated. If you haven't updated your website in 10 years, Google looks at it and says, oh, this is a dead website. Well, you know what? We don't want to show it to people because it's clearly not relevant. The idea is that it's not punitive. The idea is they want to show people who are searching on Google the best and most relevant information. And if you are not an updated website, Google will think that you are not regularly updated, and thus not relevant. So that's an important part of it. Inbound links is a second one. So what does inbound links mean? It doesn't mean going online and creating a free website in 10 minutes of your time and creating a link to that. There's something called PR, page rank. So what that means is basically from a 1 to 10. 10, I mean, almost nobody is a 10 at Google's, like or rather a CNN is a 9 or 10. Retirement homes, last I checked, was a 6 or a 7, which is very high. Most websites are a 1 or a 2. But the idea is that Google, again, another way they say, okay, we want a website which is regularly updated. That's important. 2 is, does anybody link to you? Because if nobody links to you, again, Google will say, oh, well, clearly this is, it's not a relevant website, or it's not talked about, or it's not current, or whatever it is. But if websites, particularly websites which are more prominent now, you don't even have to check the page rank to know what's a prominent. An association website is prominent. A website like retirementhomes.com, large, established, that kind of thing is prominent. Bob's homepage from 1997 is not prominent. So that's where you want to try to get. Now, sometimes you can get it for free. Sometimes it costs. But the idea is to try to think about, where you can be. It could be even a local newspaper. If you have a story in there, making sure that if there's any way that they read a little story, do an open house, or you have a speaker, whatever it is you do at your senior living community, and they write a little piece online, see if they make sure they put it online, because even if, theoretically, even if 0 people read it, and obviously it's not the case, but even if 0 people read it, and they put a link to your website, and they have a page rank of a 3 or a 4, yeah, it's going to help you get some SEO juice, absolutely. Duplicate content is a big no-no. What is duplicate content? What that means is that this is more of a challenge if you are part of a larger chain. So if you have content, in other words, if you have content that's on your website that's also on 15 other websites, so let's say you copied and pasted an article or posted a video or whatever it was that's been posted in a million and one places, again, Google says, when you search on Google, Google does not want to send you something that you can find a million other places. Because let's say, again, I looked up, let's say I looked up, an article. I'm trying to find an article from my local newspaper, and I Google it, and I find the same link, Google doesn't want that, because you know what, I'm going to get frustrated, and I'm going to leave. Rather, what Google wants to do is, sometimes if you scroll and you search for something, at the very bottom, it'll say Google took away duplicate content, and you can actually click to see it. But the whole idea is that Google doesn't want to show you duplicate content. Why is that? Because if they show that to you, you can be really frustrated and you're not going to go on Google. So what happens is that if you have duplicate content, that hurts your website. Original content, very important. So not just any kind of content you want to be regularly updating, but your own. So what does that mean? It could be a blog. It could be articles. It could be reviews or testimonials. We'll talk a little bit about that. So again, what is SEO in a nutshell comprised of? Having content on your site. 2, having not just links, but relevant and important and valuable links. Duplicate content you want to avoid. And 4, obviously, not just updates, but regular updates. So, I mean, again, this is where sort of, it's not a silver bullet. SEO is not, and anybody who can guarantee it to you, I just, nothing is quite that easy. But the idea is that there are best practices here. Nobody but sort of the 1 and 2, top 3 guys at Google know about. But the idea is that these are really the best practices. And really, when you think about it, saying, what kind of websites would you look at if you were on Google? So this is, again, a brief overview. There's also SEM, search engine marketing, which is essentially buying Google ads. We've done other webinars on that, and certainly we can do more. And anybody has questions, please get in touch with me afterwards. We can certainly discuss more of that. But this is just a brief overview of SEO. Now, obviously, there are firms, including us, which do SEO, a lot of different things, whether it's website content, whether it's providing ghostwriting, whether it's links, whatever it is. So certainly, we and others do that. But there are things that you can do on your own as well. And as I said, in terms of making sure that there's testimonials and reviews and articles that you're writing and that sort of thing, it's important. Second is know your strengths. So what does that mean? It means that know what you know, right? So what does that mean? So it means that what are the core competencies of your senior living community? What is the unique value proposition? Are you able to articulate that? If you say, yes, I can, fantastic. Can your staff articulate that? Can your frontline staff and your behind-the-scenes staff, your kitchen staff, your personal support workers, your social workers, are they your receptionists as well? Excuse me, are they all able to articulate your unique value proposition? Because what will frequently happen, and many of you have experienced this, if someone has a tour scheduled for 11, they might show up at 10:45. to see what it really looks like. Or even if they show up, yeah, you know what, they might want to ask the chef, or they might, again, not everybody, I'm sure many of you have experienced this, so make sure there's that kind of consistency as well. Know what kind of audience comes in. Again, it's not just, and this is just about knowing it. This is really just that data collection component. Know what you know. So you're saying, okay, well, you know what, geez, I really, you know, we have 100 beds in our facility, in our community. By the way, I hate the word facility. I'm sure many seniors and prospects as well. So even if it is a facility, try to, you know, my 2 cents would be try to unuse that word as much as possible. So know what you know. What that means is, what are your strengths? Is it, you know, that you are the most affordable? Is it that you have the highest ratio of care? Is it that there's always a bed available? Is it, whatever it is, know it and write it down and make sure that it's always on your fingertips. Also, know what data do you have. It's not just about what data you lack. I mean, obviously, that's what we want to be trying to get to. But the idea is, what data do you have now that you can use? What do you have? Is it, well, you know what, I know that we're really strong in hospitals. I know that all the hospitals, all the discharge planners, they know all about us. Fantastic. Work on that, and that's what we'll get into a little bit more. Is that, you know, a lot of people don't really know much about us, but everybody knows we're there. Everybody knows we exist. Okay, that's something. Or, and that could be a good or bad thing, right? We're talking about knowing your strengths and trying to turn your strengths into really, you know, lead generators for you. There's a whole different discussion about how to use, you know, your biggest weaknesses and turn them into strengths. But here we're talking about the strengths that you have. So what data do you have about your residents? Where do they come from? What got them in there? What are their needs? What got them in on that, you know, inevitably snowy, you know, mid-December day, mid-January day? You have an 85-year-old come in saying, well, you know, or, you know, anybody coming in saying, you know, I'm looking for my mom or my dad or myself or my sibling or my spouse. And inevitably, they always want to manage your expectations, saying, I'm not ready. You say you're not ready, but again, you came in a, you know, on a middle of a snowstorm and a blizzard. If something made you come in today. So make sure that you know what got them in there, and not just 1 or 2 people, but cumulatively, not just all the residents you have now, but over the last few years as well. Make sure you have that data and you're able to play on that and use that to your advantage. And again, make sure you know your unique value proposition. What makes your community unique, and not just unique as far as, well, we have the most accidents per capita. No, I mean, obviously that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about unique value proposition. What does your community have that others don't that would make me want to move in there? Is it the cheapest? Maybe, but, you know, maybe that's not the best thing. So again, think about that, and not just in your own mind. Think about what has worked with your residents now and historically as well. As far as from an online marketing perspective, what are the basics, right? So social media presence. A lot of people say, well, we have a Facebook page. And the truth is that having a Facebook page which is dormant is worse than having no Facebook page at all. I would say take it down. Having a Facebook page simply for having a Facebook page, if it's not updated, it's going to be counterproductive, because those who will see it, it will look, again, it certainly was not intention, and I think that, you know, it's not even fair, but the truth is, when people look at that, if they look and they see they don't see an update since, you know, March 2014, they're going to say it's sloppy, they start things they don't, you know, they don't finish, there's no attention to detail, etc. Whether that's accurate or not, and I don't believe, you know, that you can learn about a community's level of care based on their Facebook page, but the truth is people do think that, particularly people who are inclined to find faults. Again, people come into a senior living community, your prospects, and they are not looking for things to sell them. They are looking for things that can make them decide not to go there. Oh, you know what? I saw this lady and she looked a little depressed, or, you know, this guy, he, you know, whatever. That's a good reason not to, because, you know, maybe he's being beaten, or maybe he's neglected, or, you know what, that food looked pretty bad, I'm out. So again, people are not looking for reasons to move their loved one in. They're looking for excuses to not move their loved one in. So not just in the home itself, making sure it's spick and span and everything like that. I mean, obviously, but making sure your online presence says the same thing as well. And that really speaks to, not just from a technical perspective when we talked about, you know, the SEO side, you know, making sure your website is updated and it's current and it's vibrant and all that. But if you have a Facebook page that's dormant, or it's just, there's nothing to it, or if it has 5 likes, I would say take it down. Unless you want, I mean, there is absolute huge potential with turning Facebook into a revenue generator. And again, that's one of the things we do as well. You know, we take that on for clients. So take it, build a content calendar. If you're not familiar with what a content calendar is, what that means is, you know, knowing that, let's say, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, what you're going to be posting. So let's say Monday you post a picture from an event that happened on Sunday. So, every Sunday somebody is going to be there to take a picture, and every Monday you're going to post about it, and you're going to do that. Very important. Or maybe you have an open house, whatever it is. So content calendar does a couple things. One, it makes your life easier, so you don't wake up and you turn on the computer and say, oh my gosh, we haven't updated anything on Facebook in 6 days, or a week, or 2 weeks, or 6 months, and then you scramble to find something. It doesn't work because, one, it's stressful for you, and you don't have the time to do that. And two, inevitably, if you're trying to find something last minute, the truth is you're just not going to find something which is as good or effective as if you had planned it in advance. So content calendar is very key. And what that means is basically figuring out how often you want to post each week, what you want to post, and scheduling it. You can schedule things in advance. So it makes your life a lot easier, and it makes it more effective, and you're going to get higher results and returns from that. People seeing it, people clicking it, people contacting you as a result, etc. So that's very important. So that's one. Two is, again, the current and optimized website. And again, that's sort of part and parcel. If you have a website which is current and has high-value links into it, you're going to be as optimized as sort of you can be from doing it yourself. And then, of course, in a minute we're going to get into calls to action and landing pages, how to actually make your website a place where when people come to your site, they can contact you. And again, you want your site to do one thing, to drive leads. That's it, right? Your website is not there to look pretty. I mean, obviously you want it to look pretty, but there's, it can be simplistic as well. But your website is there to do one thing, drive leads. And that's what you want it to do. And if it's not doing that, then it's worth tinkering with the website. So same thing with social media. You don't want to shut down your Facebook page. You don't want to avoid it. You want to make sure you have these things, but you want to make sure that they are driving your key deliverables, which is more leads, more prospects, higher conversions, and more move-ins, and higher retention, of course. So what's a call to action? I mentioned a call to action a minute ago. What is that? What it does is it meets people where they are. So what that means is, again, we'll show you what that looks like in a minute as well. But it means when they're on your website, they should not be looking for the Contact Us page. And the worst thing is that if there's a Contact Us page, of course, it's hidden, but even if it's accessible, and someone clicks it, and guess what? It's a form. There's no email address. There's no name. There's no picture. There's no phone number. That does not invite people to contact you. Right? Even if you know that when you get it, you always respond within 10 minutes. If that's the only area of contact in which a prospect can reach out to you, you're just not going to get higher results. And if you think, well, we are getting pretty good results, then fantastic. You can get significantly better results if you make it more personal. So that's not the only thing you want. Again, you want to make sure it's not just one place. You want to have these calls to action throughout the website. You don't want someone to go one place. Of course, you want to have your name. You want to have your email. You want to have your phone. You want to make sure that people can reach you a lot of different ways. And these calls to action, again, that is a form where people can fill out. And now you'll say, you just told us not to do that. No. What you need to do is make sure that this is throughout the site in organic places. So you have a site, a page on your website which talks about the menu, for example, has beautiful pictures. And again, you want to make sure that it's professional and good pictures of the food, and maybe a photo of the chef. At the bottom, say, click here to get your own complimentary meal during your tour. Right? Make sure that people don't have to chase you, that you are literally spoon-feeding them, because you want these people to come in. All you want is contact. That's all. So that's what you want. If people are there and there's a picture of, let's say, an event, right? Let's say you have an events page, and you have an event page, and it talks about all the different things that you've done. Make sure that there's a call to action there, and it says, want to join us for our next thing? Bring your mom or dad to this. Click here and join us for free. If there is a staff page, you have a photo on your director of care, your director of culinary arts, your chef, and your director of admissions, whoever your staff are. That's another great place, right? Meet, Joe Smith. Click here to send him a note to set up a time to chat with him about your loved one, right? You want to make sure you're spoon-feeding people. Now, why is that? Is it because people are stupid, or they're lazy, or they're intellectually dishonest? Not at all. But again, people have a lot on their plate. And people are always, again, we're talking the sandwich generation. These are people who have children, often in their teens or their 20s or their 30s. These are people who are still working, perhaps retired, so there may be financial considerations. If they're in their 60s, they may have health issues themselves, or younger, of course, and they have to deal with their aging parents. So they have A along their plate. B, again, they're not looking for reasons to move in. They are looking for excuses not to. So we want to make things as easy as possible, and we don't want to have them chase us trying to get in touch with us. Okay? So again, one, meet people where they are throughout your website. You need to have these call to action. We're going to get into some of the details of that. Multiple formats. You can have different, again, on the chef page, click here to get your free thing, free menu or free meal, and join us, etc. Have that. So there are a lot of different options here, how you phrase it, what information you want, etc., etc. How to do a call to action. There are a lot of templates you can find online. There's a very popular one through HubSpot, HUBSPOT. So if you have a webmaster, someone who does your site, they can put in a template fairly easily. Something we do as well, as web designers, so we can do it especially customized for not just the branding, pictures and images and colors and things like that, but in terms of where on the site is going to be best, where people are going to look, sort of a Z formation or a Z, if you will. They look at the top right and the bottom left. So anyway, that sort of thing. Obviously, there are free templates online, and of course, if there's always a lot better you can get if you have a designer do it. Don't ask for unnecessary information. When you have a call to action on your site, don't ask for social security or social insurance number or their mother's maiden name. No. Ask for their name, first an email, phone, very important, and email. If it's possible, and again, once you've collected your data in terms of what people in the past, if they've been willing to give you their address, make sure you get their address as well. Not the end of the world if you can't, but address is always very good as well. As soon as somebody fills that out, so someone goes on their site, yeah, my name is John Smith. I'm looking for my mother. You don't have to say when are you looking, what's your budget. You don't have to get into any of that. Put in their information. As soon as they click hit, boom, they should get a confirmation email to them, and you should respond as soon as possible, ideally within an hour. 5 minutes if possible. If you can do it within 5 minutes, again, the statistics are such that when you call somebody 5 minutes after them filling out a form, they are infinitely much more likely to call you back. An hour later, even, you're already starting to lose it. A day later, absolutely, there should be no excuse not doing it within 24 hours. No excuse at all. So certainly should be done within 24 hours, within an hour possibly, and within 5 minutes would be absolutely fantastic. And again, those call to action should highlight the value proposition as well. So this is what we would call, this is a well-done call to action done by Brookdale Senior Living Solutions, so well done. And again, here you'll see a couple things. Top right of the page, remember we talked about that Z or Z? So what does that mean? It means top right and bottom left. Top right, what do you see? Call Senior Living Advisor, 585-351-2210. Perfect. Bottom left, what do you see? Same thing, right? So we see a couple of things here. Obviously, as far as, without even getting into the web design part of it, the phone number is big and it's visible. It's bold. It's a larger font. It's a larger text. That's very good. It's easy to see the map and directions. Obviously, very good. It's easy to see that it's independent living, the address, etc. So those are really just best practices as well. But what you see is that the phone number is there 3 times. So people are not having to chase you down. They really want to spoon feed you. They want to know, hey, our phone number is 585-351-2210. And you know what? It's very easy to see. It's in the top right. It's in the slightly below that, and it's the bottom left. So it reaches that sort of Z formation of graphic design or web design, but it's also big and visible as well. So what you see on the right-hand side where it says call 585-351-2210, emails or call, it's free. Again, that is the call to action. So what you'll see, there are a couple best practices. So one, they're not asking for all the information in the universe, right? They're asking for your name, they're asking for your phone, email, and what you're looking for, and boom, that's it. So it's very easy. It's not cumbersome. It's not overwhelming or scary looking. Again, the colors really work. It's very sort of calming. And what happens is that when I do that, I'm reaching them, and they've collected my information. So the fact is, again, when you'll notice right under where it says request for, by clicking, it says by clicking you agree to our privacy policy. So they say, we're not going to sell your email, but you know what? When someone fills out an e-lead form, make sure you keep that. And whether someone's moving in tomorrow or not moving in tomorrow or they never move in, make sure you have their email because that's a possible referral. That's a possible sort of evangelist, if you will, someone who can talk you up to their their colleagues or their friends or whoever it is. So you never want to make sure that you lose that. You always want to make sure that you don't lose that. You always want to make sure that you retain that information. So this is really a well-done call to action. It's simple. It's well-placed. The colors all work. And really what that does is when I fill that out, I know that I'm going to get a call back in 5 minutes. And that's important. Moving a little bit again on into the social media side. Social media, again, as I said, is going to be a very, very important way to drive leads to your website, but if done correctly. Now, again, if you say, well, we don't have a social media person, we don't have a communications or a marketing person to do just that, that's fine. Even if you don't have anybody to do that, and let's say one of your staff people does it in your spare time, it can still be done. Of course, as I said, you can outsource it without much difficulty. It's something we do as well. But you can keep it in-house without much difficulty as well if you have somebody who has some time. Again, why it's important, it's fully trackable, measurable, particularly with Facebook. I would say, generally speaking, Facebook is probably the best platform you have. Of course, you have Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and so on. But generally speaking, again, if your audience are, baby boomers or slightly older, really Facebook is pretty much where you need to be. Everything's fully trackable. You know who's seeing what, who's clicking what, where they are, how often they're seeing it, when they're seeing it. Everything is trackable. We can do a whole discussion just on Facebook, but the idea is that this is the kind of data which is at your fingertips. When you put in an ad in a newspaper, the newspaper can tell you how many, what kind of circulation they had. The newspaper can tell you how many people saw it that week, but it's guesswork. Nobody really knows. They can tell you how many newspapers they sold. They can tell you what kind of circulation they typically have, but they have no idea how many people actually saw that ad on that day or any day. But here you can, and that's really the benefit of online internet marketing is that you actually can track that 100% to the person. So that's why social media is such a valuable source and resource for you. Keywords. Remember I mentioned earlier about how you define yourselves is not necessarily how your prospects search for you. So for example, you see yourself as an independent living community. You know what? Prospects see you as retirement home. You see yourselves as memory care. They see you as nursing home or facility or whatever it is. And again, moving away from that word as well. So the idea is that you need to be trying to figure out, and there's a lot of different data. Again, this is really just an overview. Google Trends is one thing. Google Keyword Tool is another tool that you can use. Again, ask me, send me an email afterwards. We're happy to get in touch with you and walk you through some of these things. Or even just taking sort of a more of a low-tech approach, speaking to the people who are in, speaking to your colleagues. What kind of terms, how are people describing you? Even if it's incorrect or inaccurate, how do you follow that? How do you use hashtags? Again, this is not a Facebook session. We'll do a Facebook session, next time perhaps. But the idea is that how do you take the keywords they're looking for and make sure you use those same ones so people can find you that way? So there's three ways to engage on social media. One is producing your own content. Two is sharing other people's content. And three is interacting. So that's conversations, commenting, liking, sharing, etc. So again, there's three. So it's one, producing your own content. Two, sharing other people's content. And three, engaging with other people. And there can be a lot of different ways to do any one of those three, but that's really the overview. And the idea is that when you have this content calendar and you can say, okay, I want to post 3 times a week. And really, I would say 2 times a week is the minimum. 3 is ideal. Obviously, you can do more. You don't want to be doing 15 times a day. You want to be doing 2 to 3 times a week. So create a content calendar. Could be Monday. Okay, Mondays we're going to post a picture and an update from the open house of the event that we do Sunday, or whatever it is that we do on Sunday. On Wednesday, maybe we'll do a quick, a photo of some people having dinner, or an interview with a staff person, that sort of thing. Maybe on the Friday, we'll do some interesting article from AARP or CARP about how to live to 100, that sort of thing. So in other words, it's always better to create your own content. That's one. 2 is you always want to, pictures will always have higher engagement than posts without a picture. So you always want to have pictures. So again, should be original, should have pictures, and should be personal. Again, there's nothing wrong with occasionally posting something from a website like AARP and so on. Nothing wrong with that at all. But the idea is that, why would they like your Facebook page? Why would they engage with your Facebook page when they can just go to AARP, or they can go to CNN, or they can just go to Yahoo or Google News if they want to find news? I want to see personal pictures. That's what people want to go when they like your Facebook, because that's also going to be far more valuable for them. When they see a picture of Granny who's smiling at an event, or an interview with the chef, this is a winner. This is far more a winner than anything else. So keeping up with the Joneses. So this is always something. I remember we were in a meeting with a client once, and they said, "We want to make this go viral." I said, "Okay, how do you intend to do that?" I said, "Well, just make it go viral." And so, again, this is really something where I'm sure many of you, have said it. How do we go viral? If it was easy as pressing a button, obviously, They wouldn't be the challenge that it is. So it's not that easy, obviously, and there is no guarantee. There are only best practices, and there are only the elements of it. The same thing as SEO, search engine optimization. You can't snap your fingers and make your site go to first page. What you can do is try to identify the key components of it and jump on it. So what do I say when I say keeping up with the Joneses? It means when you see memes or fads or viral videos, something that's going online, something in your own personal Facebook page, and again, that's when it's important to keep abreast of these kind of things. When you see something moving around that, or even if you read in the newspaper that kind of thing, you know what, that's something to jump on. That's something to do, absolutely. And you might say, well, it's a little bandwagon. Yes, it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, obviously, you know, has to be A, in good taste. B, there has to be perhaps some relevance. I mean, simply, you know, posting someone else's. Get your seniors involved. Get your residents involved. Get your staff. If you know there's an issue with residents, get your staff. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, there was the Harlem Shake. There was that song "Happy" where everybody's dancing. I mean, endless, right? And again, you want to be timely. You don't want to do something from 4 years ago. And so that's where two tools will really be helpful. One is Google Alerts. So Google Alerts, you can go into Google News and you can basically set parameters for how often you'd like you type in certain search terms. So if, you know, videos viral, that sort of thing, something comes. So let's say you say, every day I want Google to send me, you know, let's say every day at 10 a.m. I want Google to send me articles or a link to links rather, where that word is mentioned. So you can sort of keep abreast. You say, wow, this thing is really going online. Another tool is YouTube. Make sure you go on YouTube and see what's viral, what's being shared now. These are the kind of things which can be jumped on and being taken advantage of. So that's very important, you know, to use Google Alerts and to use YouTube for your advantage. So you're not just finding about things just as they're not getting popular, but you can jump at them as well. So again, how to keep viral, and why is that important? Viral is about brand building, right? You want to make sure that that plays really well into your brand. Sometimes some very well-meaning and very positive, and even well, I would say well-intentioned efforts can sometimes be counterproductive. You know, let me give an example. Sometimes, you know, let's say there was, as I mentioned, there's a song "Happy," singer Pharrell, and basically has people dancing around singing how happy they are, wonderful. I mean, it's, you know, it's a beautiful song. Everybody's happy. But if you have let's say you show it in your senior living community, you show your residents, and your residents look disheveled or tired, or they're being forced into it, that doesn't look genuine, and it doesn't look, and it's not consistent with your brand. So you know what, you're better off not to do that, rather than saying, okay, we know this is really going popular. Let's get some of our residents to do it, because theoretically you can get your residents to do it, but if you can see if somebody wants to do it, or if they have no idea what's going on, and you know what, either A, maybe it's not best to do that at all, or maybe, you know what, pick 1 or 2 residents, or pick maybe no residents at all, maybe pick your staff. Again, there's an opportunity to be creative here, but the idea is that if it's not executed in a way that is consistent with your overall strategy and your branding efforts, then it can actually be counterproductive. So again, you want to be viral. Obviously, you want to jump on these things if you can, but the idea is that it's not a priority. Do it if it's fairly, if it falls into your lap, it's easy to maintain, and if it's really popular now. If you're catching the tail end of it, then you know what, it's okay. You missed the boat on this one. There's always next time. But the idea is that here's just some opportunities you can get out your name a little bit. But again, only if it's positive and consistent with the brand and your strategy. Again, we talked about this. Obviously, the benefit of online marketing is that everything is instant. It's cheaper. It's trackable, measurable, everything like that. But you know what? Sometimes there are options which are lower tech as well. Now, again, you see here an email 10 years ago. You got mail on his email. He's so excited. It was today, 436 emails. So absolutely, online marketing should be the core of all of your marketing efforts. There's no question about that. At the same time, there are also other efforts as well, which in conjunction can help augment your online marketing efforts. So again, you want to maintain everything you're doing, consistency, content. Superficialities can be important too. You know, what are some of the things that people care about? But in addition to, again, online marketing, talk about your website, talk about being viral, talk about social media, talk about calls to action. All of these things are vital. They are non-negotiable. They're again, unless you just don't have the time to do it, in which case you probably should get somebody to do it, because it's that important for lead generation. So that's the core. That's the A, B, and C. So what comes next? Testimonials and reviews. This is part of this, right? Testimonials and reviews. You need to highlight positive reviews of your community. people who live there, or relatives, or loved ones, or visitors, right? Or people came for a tour. Very important to highlight those for a couple of reasons. One, it's unique content. Two, it's content that's, what's the word I'm looking for, original. It's authentic. And a lot of people say, well, you know what? I don't want somebody to write a testimonial which is negative. And of course, you don't have to put something negative on your website, but what about Facebook? What if somebody writes on Facebook, well, I went in there and it was this and that? You know, obviously that's a legitimate concern on retirementhomes.com. A big part of what we do. We highlight, you know, thousands of different senior living communities on our website, and there are a lot of thousands of reviews on our site. And a lot of people say, well, you know what, I'm happy if everybody writes positive things, but what about negative things? Inevitably, people will write negative things. That's the nature of being in this business, is that people will not always be happy with what you have to say. Now, obviously, there are two components. People say my mother was abused daily. Yes, that's not something you want. But the truth is almost 95% of the time, people are going to say something, and you will be able to address it. So it's not simply a negative review. You can, again, talking about how to use a negative turning into a positive. If there's a negative review there and it's not responded to and says, oh, my mother this, or I wasn't happy with this, and there's no response, that looks very, very bad. But if there's a response from someone in a higher position, or at least with a title that implies authority, says, I'm so sorry you hear that. Here's my personal phone number. I would love to talk with you. We definitely want to help rectify this. This is very shocking what you said, that sort of thing. People will say and say, oh, you know what? And then you highlight that. And then if you're really lucky, they'll post after and say, wow, I just talked with you. Thank you so much. I'm glad you took care of it. It was a misunderstanding. Wow. So you've turned a negative into a huge positive, right? Very important to do, right? Obviously, there's abuse and other claims, but the truth is that 95% of the time, there are things which are legitimate, which you probably can overcome. And again, know your legal rights about what you can take down, what constitutes defamation, what constitutes libel. So if somebody writes something, you can take it down. Potentially, there's legal options as well in terms of what you can actually do. But as I said, 99% of the time, they're going to be positive, they're going to be neutral, or they're going to be something that which you can turn into a positive. So it's absolutely a fantastic resource, which is free. And right, there's reviews, testimonials. They can say what you can't say. You can only gloat about yourself so much. They can be more authentic. There's far more credibility, right? If I'm trying to purchase a car or stay in a hotel, I can go and, you know, I frequently travel for work, and I look at a lot of hotel websites, and they look great, and then I read the testimonials. I saw cockroaches, smells like cigarettes. Well, that's what a testimonial told me. You know what? I'm not going to be staying there. The website, you know, showed it like a Shangri-La. You know what? If the testimonials say otherwise, guess where I'm going? I'm not going there. So testimonials will say what you can't say. They look authentic, and they will sway people's opinion far more than a website. So there should be a testimonial section on your website, absolutely. You know, hear what our guests, hear what our residents' families say, but it'll be peppered throughout as well, a little quote. And as I said, even negative quotes absolutely can be good for business if they're handled correctly. So here's another one. Look at this. Wonderful memories. Dear Renee and Lexington staff, we want to acknowledge and thank everyone for all the beautiful cards and expressions of sympathy we're given on the passing of our mother, Roseanne. She had lived at Lexington for 8.5 years, and this truly had been her home for the whole time, etc., etc. You can't say that on a website, right? You say this yourself. It's not possible. You can say it for, you can absolutely say this for somebody else. But it's very hard for them to say it themselves. So she says, it's important as the wonderful care she received was, even more significant was the kindness, friendship, and true love that she felt. You know what? That says a million times more than anything you can talk about, any awards you've won. So this is really the power. Again, getting into more of the sort of the lower tech ones, which you absolutely need to be looking into as well, which can augment, again, internet marketing is the A, B, and C of all marketing you should be doing. But what are some of the options? Hospitals and discharge planners, right? Are you doing that? Do you have a referral network? When Bob Smith at the hospital, he falls at home, he gets into the hospital, and maybe he shouldn't go home, or maybe he needs respite care, or whatever it is. Do they know to call you? Do they know that you're an option? Do they know that you maybe take respite, maybe you don't, maybe it's on long term, but do they know you're available? Absolutely, you need to remain top of mind for these people. So you want to call them social work. You want to be asking for discharge professionals, and these are the right people. And again, the right level of care. If you're memory care, Alzheimer's care, you should be hitting those places that focus that. If you're more independent living, active living, perhaps it's more respite. But again, there's an opportunity absolutely to get new leads and just remain top of mind for these different professionals. Events, right? Talking about different events, identify senior-heavy events. There's sponsorship opportunities there, target advertising, keywords, that sort of thing. Again, it's not just advertising for the sake of advertising, but it's finding those key opportunities. For example, this past summer, Retirement Homes based in Toronto, My wife and I, we went to this. They had the whole series. Those of you who have ever been to Toronto or from Toronto, there's a big castle in the middle of the city called Casa Loma. There it is there. Beautiful. And bottom left, they had this something called Symphony in the Gardens. They did it for about, I think, 12 weeks. There must have been 600 to about 1,000 people there, every single. So they had huge, the entire garden spanning this acreage outside. And you know what? The average age there was probably 70 years old. And absolutely, and there was a local senior living community sponsoring that. And so this is the idea here, is that these are the kinds of opportunities where, again, typically more expensive. Again, you're not going to get the results here as you would with, targeted Facebook ads and so on. But here are some of the places where, certainly, if you do have, a few dollars to throw around above and beyond online marketing, it's a good option as well. So where do we get, just sort of wrapping up now, a little bit of content. Content is king. So having when I say content, it can be articles, could be videos, could be blogs, could be podcasts, whatever it is on your website, it's the fundamental. There's SEO value. It creates value for prospects. There's a reason. It's stickiness. If you're familiar with the term stickiness, it keeps them on your site. You want people on your site longer. There's a reason to return. If you never update your website, there's no reason for them to return. But if it's consistently updated, well, you know what? They're going to come back maybe tomorrow, next week, because there's something new. It's about them, not about you. Talk about your staff, your residents. Talk about your staff. Talk about people. Talk about, again, it's not about the home. It's not about the awards. It's talk about the people there. Again, it's an opportunity to collect data and use it for newsletters, for promotions, for articles, for whatever it is that that you're promoting. It's an opportunity to collect that data and send out and remain in touch and regularly with prospects. Again, check privacy legislation about what kind of pictures you can share, residents, et cetera, but again, pictures are always very important. Make sure you develop content for corporate website. If you're part of a larger chain, make sure that your voice is heard there as well. Make sure that you're reaching out to regional news outlets as well in terms of what you're doing, some ideas. Make sure that you're in contact with whoever the local beat reporter is for health, or for whatever kind of news would be most relevant for your community. That's the kind of content. Not only will they write about you, you'll write about the interview. You'll take pictures from your site. It's a gift that keeps on giving there. And again, think about some other religious and cultural websites. If you're a Lutheran home, or if you're a Presbyterian or a Jewish affiliated community, a lot of opportunities there in religious or other culture. Maybe you have a particular language that's spoken most often, etc. So just really, it's about certainly industry blogs as well, directories, retirementhomes.com. So a lot of opportunities, a little bit of creativity. You can find yourselves on a lot of different sites. Have your own content, repurpose their content. Again, not duplicate their content, but take their content, share it. And there's really a lot of opportunity here to build a website which is vibrant, which is popular, which is highly trafficked. And then, of course, that leads into what you can do on your social media strategy as well. Retargeting. Retargeting here is a very important component as well. And again, we could talk for hours about this, but in a nutshell, what retargeting is as follows. That picture there, that's an image of the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. If anybody's familiar with that, what that basically means is that sort of an old adage. This guy, he's firing at a blank wall, and he's not doing well at all. And then what does he do afterwards? He draws a bullseye over it. So people look and they say, "Wow, you're fantastic. You're a fantastic marksman." Through this, he wasn't. He was shooting randomly, and then he set his goals around it. So why is it important to set goals first? Because what we can do is retargeting. What that means is 96 to 98% of people come to your website. They're going to come to your website. They're never going to come back, or they're not ready to buy imminently. Certainly for a life-changing thing like this, right? Even for a T-shirt, people aren't going to make a decision on the first visit. So what retargeting does, and this is what we do for a lot of clients now as well. So Joan Smith, I come to your website. I'm on it for a minute, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. I'm almost certainly not going to make a purchase, or probably not even pick up the phone right there, and I leave. What retargeting means is that when I, Joan Smith, go to bed, next morning I wake up and I turn on my computer and I go to Yahoo to check my email, or I go to CNN or Fox News, or whatever website I'm going to, and I see an ad. Guess whose ad is going to be on that page? That's right, it's going to be your community's ad, because what happens is, what we do is we take their IP address, and this ad will follow them around, so we retarget them. The idea is that you track these people, you engage with them, right? Because we know she's already been on your site. She wants to know about what you're talking about. But for whatever reason, she didn't engage with you that first time. So you track her, right? You take those, basically we use a cookie to actually follow her around. We engage with her, and then we convert her. So the opportunity is that she comes on your site once, you've locked on her, you know she's interested, and then your ad is going to follow her no matter where she goes on the internet. This is something we're doing. It's also extremely inexpensive, something like $10 for 1,000 page views. So it's very, very inexpensive, and it's a really good opportunity to follow people around and make sure that your name is again and again in their mind. So anyway, the idea there as well is that helping to target the right people as opposed to just shooting randomly and then drawing a target around it. The idea is that the people who come to your website, they're interested in you, go after them. And again, referrals, another sort of another option as well. Make sure you incentivize it on your site, and make sure that's maintained as well. Make sure there's that carrot as well, that people, if they refer someone, they get a free month, they get whatever it is. It's another opportunity to help keep that going. And so that's it for today. I know we're just shy of 2 o'clock, so I'll take some questions as well. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And okay, thank you so much. So we have Barry. Okay, Barry asks, what are the best, I'm not sure I understand this question. Barry, are you talking about how best to engage on social media for your own Facebook page, or are you talking about other how to engage elsewhere? I'm just waiting for that. Okay. Barry is saying, what is the kind of content that is best to share on a Facebook page? Okay, so thank you. So again, one of the things we talked about was, your own content is always ideal. Doesn't mean that you can't share other people's content, but it means produce your own. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean only sharing pictures of, as I said, okay, Barry's saying, is it only about sharing pictures of your residence? No, because the truth is, the same picture, same residence, it can get a little dry. Pictures are always good, and that should absolutely be the lead, but make sure there's a value. And this is where we talk about, knowing your own unique value proposition, making sure that your website has value, making sure that your social media has value to people. Why should they be clicking it? So make sure that it says something about it that speaks to them. Is there something they can learn from it? Above and beyond seeing pictures, which are important, what's the take-home message they can get from it? So make sure that, again, as far as you having the data instead of just guessing it, look on your site. See what's, if you don't have Google Analytics set up, make sure you have that. What part of your website are people looking at most often? What do people talk to you when you come in? What do people care about? What brings people in for tours? Make sure, again, there's always a call to action as well. Whatever you're sharing, and thank you for that question, Barry, whatever you're sharing, make sure there's always a call to action. So, you share on Facebook. Check out the pictures from our Calypso Day yesterday. There's one I saw recently from our Calypso Day at ABC Retirement Home. Wow, we had such a fun time. Email Bob at ABC Retirement for your own tours, so you can see it. Make sure there's always that call to action there. So thank you so much for that, Barry. Next question. Beth asks, what kind of budget should we expect for an online marketing campaign? It's an open. Thank you for that. It's an open-ended question. Obviously, it depends on what your expectations are. When we talked about retargeting, let's pull back here to retargeting. Retargeting can be, it can be as much or as little as you want. There's something that you can get for almost nothing, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's content writing that we do, whether it's retargeting. So again, it's taking that. It really depends on what your goals are. And this is where we talked about, the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. What are your goals? How many new move-ins do you need? How many prospects do you need? How many leads do you need to turn to prospects to turn to move-ins? What's your retention rate? So these are the kinds of things that you need to know what you want, or at least speaking some of that information. At least you want to know how many move-ins you want and how many prospects you need in order to get that. So first you need to set a goal for yourself. And then second, we say, okay, well, what are you spending right now on traditional media? Radio, television, newspapers, because absolutely, almost certainly, you're going to get more bang for your buck online. A lot of people ask, they say, well, hold on a second. Joan Smith, 89 years old, is not checking Facebook. She may be, and a growing number are, but the fact is that her kids almost certainly are, and her family, and she probably has friends who almost certainly are. So the idea is that I think we need to get out of the bubble a little bit in terms of thinking of traditional media as not just the only, but even the leading form of advertising, because the truth is that that's advertising. It's basically broadcasting out a message. You put something online, and you know exactly who saw it, when they saw it, what they engaged, and you can follow them like retargeting does. You can do it, as I said, for almost nothing. But when you're putting something in a radio or in a television and so on, you know how many people usually watch it or read it. You know what their circulation is, but you really don't know who, and you certainly can't go after them. So there's a real, you're sort of fighting with not one but two arms behind your back. There's no way to follow up with them. We're here, you can see, and you can follow up with them. So as far as the budget's concerned, you literally can be as much or as little as you want, and obviously, the more you pay for, the more you get. But there are a lot of opportunities to test things out, do very small, $50 a month, $30 a month, try something for almost nothing, and see if it's to success that way. So in that sense, there's a lot more value trying something online because no commitment. Typically, with newspaper, ad sales as well, they'll say, well, listen, it's not worth doing once. You have to do it 3 times. That can be thousands of dollars. I mean, that could be the equivalent of a 5-year campaign online. So again, when we're talking about targeting, why reach a newspaper where 100,000 people read it and only 10,000 are targets? Why? Even if 10,000 of 100,000 is a lot, why do that? Why not reach where 100% of your target or 80% of your target? So it just makes a lot more sense to do that. So just in the interest of time, I think we don't have any more time for questions right now. I see there's a whole bunch more. My email is robert@retirementhomes.com. We'll send you a note afterwards. Please let me know if you have any questions, concerns, stock tips, winning lottery numbers, anything like that as well. Particularly the latter would be most appreciated, so thank you. But again, thank you so much to everybody. We will be back next month, so we'll have all your data. We're going to send more information on that. So thank you so much for joining us. Have an amazing day, and we will speak soon. All the best.